kept it up there for that.
Beautiful. All right. And we are live. I want to thank everyone for tuning into a very, very special edition of Off the Record, the People's Podcast, with our great guest, student minister Amin Muhammad, who someone who's known me my entire life, and I've been blessed and honored to know you and your family as well, sir. First of all, assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, sir. Ramadan Mubarak.
Ramadan Kareem to you, sir, as well. First of all, I just want to thank you again. It's such an honor that you would spend some time with us this afternoon. My first question is, when did you first hear the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad?
That's a twofold question. Have been seated and was with the teachings as a young boy, of course, as many of us growing up in New York. But to first hear the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, I was in California in the Air Force, what we call the Devil's Military. I joined to escape, the hole I had fallen into in New York. I didn't join because I loved the country or nothing crazy like that. But in any case, I was with a friend preparing to go out to some party, and he was playing the minister at the State of the Race conference from UCLA, a cassette tape. And I never forget that. And I'd heard bits and pieces of it as we move it around, and it messed me up because, in one sense you're hearing this profound truth, and on the other side we were moving to get into some madness,
Yes, sir. Yes,
but
sir.
but that kind of was the first time I heard it, and not too long after that, I was visiting with a friend of mine up to the Bay Area. And as I was waiting for him, his mother, on a bookshelf was this blue book that I, just picked up to read. And it had on the cover, Message to the Black Man. I'd never seen anything like that. So I started reading it, and great for me that my friend was taking a long time getting ready to come. So I read just about half the book. And when it was time to go, I asked his mother, well, where can I get this book? And she said, oh, you can have it. It was my husband's, and nobody here reads it. And she was a widower. So I took that back with me and devoured it, and then it kind of rested in me as much as I could digest it at that time, until I was blessed a little while after that to have an opportunity to be directed towards the minister.
Praise be to Allah. And thank you all for watching. My next question is, how did the Air Force training help you in your journey in the nation?
The funny thing is that, when you growing up in New York, I grew up, early in the Bronx, but most of my time was in Mount Vernon. And I got to know, when I was like 15, 16, Ilyasa Shabazz. Of course, I'm a little Negro child, not knowing who's who and what's what. But the fact that, the word was, okay, this is Malcolm's daughter, be careful what you do, and Miss Shabazz don't play, and that kind of stuff.
Yes, sir.
But I didn't know nothing about Malcolm X or Shabazz or nothing like that. I was just, being a little Black child doing what we do. In any case,
Yes,
when I ran into the Air Force, it was because I was in life, and a lot of people around me were ODing and doing the things they were doing. So I knew I had to leave. And my mother didn't want me to do it. Nobody did, but I did it anyway. And the people I came in with that were from Brooklyn or from the Bronx and a couple from Queens, you know, one of them was with 5%, I think. And, you know, but everybody knew a little something. And, you know, the thing was, you would say things like, you don't eat pork, you know, they said it. And when they said it, I said it too, because it was like the cool thing to say.
Yes, sir.
But, you know, I ate as much swine like everybody else. But, you know, around the crew, you know, when for breakfast or whatever, I didn't eat pork. And then I got a hold of the autobiography of Malcolm X while I was in. So anyway, I really read through that, and I was always a reader. And there was a number of things that kind of fit some of the things I had already known. I knew from my grandmother, Ruth Jackson, who when I was younger, I remember hearing her say that when Jesus comes, he's going to deal with these crackers, you know. And this is in Taylortown, North Carolina, just outside of Pinehurst. But
Yes,
she was
sir.
a strong evangelist, and you know, she taught scripture and you know all of that. And I knew, number one, that you know, whenever Jesus comes, you know, he getting rid of the government. He ain't dealing
Yes,
with
sir.
none of he, you know.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I already knew that, and so and I had in my mind as a young boy that you know when he comes, I was gonna help him. So anyway, in the Air Force, you know, I learned how to be more slick though in my madness, you know, because I learned I could still get high and you know, but but I ran into people who had aspects of the teachings that intrigued me. One brother in particular, his name now is Nzaze Malongo. Used to be Nzaze Muhammad. Anyway, he was at the same base with me in California, and one day at a gym on base, I was you know in the little weight area with the bags, and I was doing my little movie technique, martial arts. I didn't really know no martial arts, but you know, at that time, but I was doing movie technique, you know,
Yes, sir.
something to
Yes,
make
sir.
me look real good, you know,
Yes, sir.
that
Yes,
kind of
sir.
little air martial arts.
Yes, sir.
And here this dude comes over, big diesel, stocky, African looking brother, and he says, "You train?" And I was like, and there's a bunch of people around, so I'm like, yeah, a little bit, you know, you know. And so you know, you want to move a little bit, you want to spar a little bit, and you know, people are looking like, and I said, man, I can't
Yes, sir.
back down.
Yes, sir.
He started throwing kicks up on my head, and you know, just missing me and hit me a little bit, but you know, I dealt with it and tried to do the best I could. He liked my heart even and recognized I know Jack.
Yes,
Anyway,
sir.
he said, look, I'm going to go back to my dorm, get something to eat. You hungry? I say, yeah. So when I walked back with him, I walked in, and on the ceiling, he had a picture of a black man laying it's a black and white picture with a black man laying in the dirt with his head blown open. And the word said something like, life for the African in South Africa, support the ANC. So I mean, he was like, you know, an ANC, for those who don't know, is the African National Congress. So then he had a poster, a little short poster of the minister speaking at an event somewhere. And I didn't know who it was. And he fixed me a sandwich, and then he gave me a couple of books. One by Dick Gregory, one he gave me Cooking with Mother Nature. He gave me The Destruction of Black Civilization to look at. And then he said, yeah, he says Farrakhan is going to be at in down in LA next weekend. Do you want to come? And I was like, yeah, I like to come. But I never came. I was just, I was still into my thing.
Yes, sir.
So he said to me, look, I'm starting a martial arts class, and if you like to train, I'll teach you. Only thing is you can't get high, you can't drink, and I mean, I don't deal with any, stupidity. He just went through it.
Yes,
I
sir.
said, yeah, sure. So anyway, through him, now I already got Mess to the Black Man in me. I already got autobiography of Malcolm X. He talking about fasting, training, and whatever. And then the next thing, I missed the minister. And then he said, look, the minister's going to be at this fundraiser for Geronimo Pratt. And I said, oh, okay. Because I knew about him because in Zaze, he grew up as a child of the Panthers, and I was studying more about Black nationalists and all that stuff. In any case, next thing I know, me and it was him and two other people, 2 or 3, it was 4 of us all together sitting in this school auditorium listening to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teach the subject, sacrifice, the noble price for freedom. And brother, I don't know, I can't say I knew and understood everything, but the thing that stuck out for me was that there wasn't anybody defending us. There wasn't anybody standing up for us. There wasn't anybody that I knew of that was speaking to how we had been destroyed as a people, and somebody that was standing to defend us and didn't want to make friends with the enemy, didn't want to march in and teach us how to negotiate with the enemy, and was talking about how do you say you love Black people, and you're not willing to sacrifice. And then he started talking about the sacrifice of all those who went before us, and then our parents and all that stuff. Then he talked about, he says, and you talking about revolution, says, and it says, and you smoking a cigarette. He says, if I can't trust you with your own life, how can I trust you with the life of our people? I mean, he just broke stuff down. And so,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And mine was blown. This is in Pasadena. That's what Halim reminded me a little while ago, brother Captain Halim, because he was there. This is the early days, and the nation's just coming up. This is 1980. So at the end of that, Brother Khalid walks over to us after it was over, and he says, so he gave the greetings to us. He said, so I'll see you all at FOI class. And Zaze said, yeah, what time? So, yes, sir. And it was Saturday mornings then, So so yes, sir, I didn't know FOI from MOI or, I didn't know.
Yes, sir.
But anyway, we walked right in, went right to class, and the processing department hadn't formally been reestablished again in Chicago. And I was in the devil's military anyway, so I couldn't really I didn't know nothing about none of that, other than when we walked in the door, because we were clean cut, we were trained, we were disciplined. When I walked in, they walked in and gave me an X when I came in as attendance. And we started attending the Topographical Research Center in Los Angeles. In fact, Brother Malik, the father of Sister Kabasa, Sister Hania, and Brother Macau, he was the captain, the student captain then in some early days in the Wild Wild West and all of that. Yeah.
Okay, praise be to Allah. Okay, I definitely didn't know any of that. Thank you very much for your honesty and transparency, sir. Brother Eric Muhammad says, my brother, my sister Naima, Mimi both said, Assalamu alaikum. Brother Daniel says, Assalamu alaikum, family. Brother Franklin Muhammad says something like, and thank you all for watching. My next question is, so how did your parents feel about you? Well, how did you get out of the military? How did you get out of the military? How did that happen if you technically couldn't register?
Well, what happened was we were so active in being Muslims. When the word got back to the military, the Air Force base, in Zaze, who was the strongest of us in terms of militancy, they moved on him in a certain way where they, and you have to back up a little bit. Back in them days, because he grew up as a nationalist and a Panther, he was about weapons. And when I was with him, hell, I was about weapons too. And so,
yes, sir, yes, sir.
And then, just in starting out the nation, we brought, a lot of the madness and the confusion with us to help the Honorable Minister Farrakhan. And he was patient and tolerant with some of that stuff, even as he was trying to clean us up. So in any case, they went after Nzaze because of accusing him of this, that, and the other. Me, even though I had like less than 11 months left in my my time, and mind you, when you got that amount of time, you can't get transferred nowhere. Supposedly, you can't. You good. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna be here. I was gonna make California my home or move up to Oakland or something. Well, the devil, changed all that, and they rewarded me for my militancy and sent me to Keflavik, Iceland. They said, hey, no, but you know how Allah works, man. It as it turned out, just around that time, as the minister is strengthening and trying to get, this is just before the first Savior's Day. He actually, I missed that because the devil sent me to Iceland. Now I had a choice. They were either gonna put me in jail, whatever, however they do that, or prosecute me or whatever.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Or they sent me there. But because of the madness that was going on at the time in Los Angeles, friends told me the best thing for me would be to go on and leave and do my little time. So I got all the books that I could get, everything I could, and I brought that with me. And I went to Iceland, which wasn't bad, and I studied, and I trained because I was a really good martial artist by that time, and I trained up there, and I studied, and then when I came back to LA, a lot of stuff had changed, but the nation was going, yeah. So this is a long story, Josh. This is one of them, like, well, damn,
I know it's all good. Praise the Lord. I'm learning.
What episode is this, right?
Okay, beautiful. Okay, so once you're in Iceland, when do you tell your parents that you were going to join, and how did they receive that?
My mother didn't know what to think. Mind you, she was upset that I left home in the first place. But my grandmother, she just listened to me and she looked, at me. And then I had aunts who were very, very, let me say this right, because if they start listening, they'll start denying it. But they one in particular was very, very rough. And the point I made to her when she was going in on me was like, you are something. So when I was doing drugs and when I was, living foul, I mean, yeah, you were disturbed by this, but I didn't get this kind of energy in words, But here I am now, cleaned up, trying to be a good man, trying to be righteous. I ain't trying to be like my uncles and all the other men in the family. I say, here I am, the answer to your prayers. and here you are denying me, you know. I said, well, whatever, I said, and I ignored him for a while, and I was real, I was ignorant in that I was beating him up a lot, with what I thought I knew of Christianity at the time, because I didn't, I hadn't been paying attention to the Honorable Minister Farrakhan as well as I should have, and learning his way. And so I wasn't good in representing my Islam to my family, but they did know I had changed my life, and I was doing better than what I was. I just couldn't articulate it well,
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. Yes, sir. One brother says, Sister Amina Haq says, something like Amina Haq said he was her first minister when she was 19 years old in Columbia, South Carolina. He and his family secured her. Praise be to Allah. My next question is, speaking of you becoming a minister, how did you get into the ministry?
If your father hears his part, he's gonna crack up. Now, time goes on. I end up in Charlotte, North Carolina. I went to Japan for a minute. I came back. I actually was on my way to Atlanta, and then in stopping in Charlotte, where my family was, I saw. I was so frustrated, because I was trying to find my way and I couldn't find no Islam and whatever. So anyway, at a place they used to call McDonald's cafeteria, I saw this brother and sister, brother in bow tie and suit, sister in white garment, come flying by, and I jumped up and ran after them. And I asked, I'm looking for the followers of Minister Farrakhan. My name is Kendall, and so, and so, and they looked at me like I was crazy, and they said, well, we're meeting in the back here. So anyway, I got involved in the Charlotte study group under beautiful brother Lee Muhammad, beautiful brother Lee Muhammad, and a brother that was really wonderful to me and patient with me named Donald, who recently passed. May Allah be pleased with him. But he really helped me. Now I'm coming straight from LA to the South. And of course, one-eyed man in the land of the blind is king. So I ended up becoming a lieutenant because I had the discipline. I knew drill. I knew some stuff, a little bit of something, just enough to get me in trouble. And so, but I loved the soldier. And then I ran into former minister, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Larry, later named Ali Shah, may Allah be pleased with him, who nursed me and sent me messages to send to the minister. Now this time I'm a captain. And so one along the way, we sold in the paper, when it was coming out. And I'll go down to Columbia, South Carolina on one Saturday to get rid of papers, me and one brother. And there were believers down there that would come up to Charlotte on occasion. So anyway, we go down there, we soldiering, and they say, well, are y'all here now? We need some help and blah, blah. So, I said, well, look, if you get some people together, I'll come back down tomorrow on Sunday and we'll show a video, and we, so bought TV in the car, the VCR and a whole nine. And they got some people together. And so anyway, we built a little core group. So I'm writing Chicago at this time. Brother Amin he had gotten sat down for a minute in DC as the minister. And I'm not getting no response on, okay, we got this thing, these believers in Columbia, they need a minister, they need a secretary, they need this, they need that. So this goes on for a little while. I get a letter from Dr. Amin saying, I heard about your work in Columbia. I'll be in Charlotte on such and such a day. Bring the believers there up. I'd like to meet them. I'm like, well, cool, you know. So we get there, and Brother Alim says, he, meets the believers. Then I say, yeah, all they need is a minister down there. It's a really good group. And I found a couple of spots that, you know, he said, brother, you're the minister. I said, oh no. I said, oh no, sir, brother. I said, oh no, sir. I'm just, I was going down there and I'm still in Charlotte, and I get down there a couple of times a week, but brother so-and-so and his sister, and I think he said, brother, you're the minister. I said, no, I'm like, you don't understand what I just said. So I started to say it again. He said, look, brother, you're the minister. I don't want to hear it anymore. And then just dismiss me.
Yes, sir.
No, word is bond to Allah. That's how it happened. And so that's it. And the rest of it, you just try to do whatever that means. And, and that's what happened. Then Allah blessed me to meet Brother Curtis doing an event in Charlotte when he was, he had just stood back up, and Brother Lee put me together with him. And he came, we got back down to Columbia, and he saw where the believers were meeting. They were meeting in my apartment. And he said, no, we can't have this, brother. And he immediately went to work and doing what he does, And so he began to do that, and we became real tight, because we didn't, where he worked and where I worked were real close. So right after work, we get together, we soldier, and we built by Allah's grace and did what we did. And we had them nice fights and wrestling matches, minister and captain. We go at it and cuss each other out. But we loved the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. We loved the teachings, and we loved our people. And so we worked real hard, and Allah blessed us.
Praise be to Allah. And thank you for your family for their sacrifice as well. Because I know that Brother Ian F. Muhammad said he did his thing here in DC. And Sister Amina Haq said that you were always been a great example of protecting friend and brother. Speaking of that, when did you first meet the Most Honorable Louis Farrakhan?
Well, the minister was coming to DC, and Brother Amin invited me up. No, that was the second time. The first time, the minister was speaking somewhere, and I was invited up to the suite at the old Howard Inn. And at that time, I think it was just before they got the place on Kenilworth, and they were meeting in a room downstairs at the Howard Inn. And the minister was staying there, and Brother Alim brought me up to the suite to meet him. And then the minister drew me close, and he asked me what I did, and I told him, and he told me that he was gonna well, anyway, he just blew my mind, and he told me some things that eventually came to pass. And so from there, I was, of course, I always have loved him, and I loved him before I knew it was him, And so, and anyway, yeah, that's the first meeting there in that suite at the Howard Inn.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir. And how, because I never knew that your name was Brother Kendall. So how did you go from being Brother Kendall to Minister Amin? How did you get your holy name? How did it happen?
Well, first of all, the minister had been at certain meetings. The minister was blessing the student laborers with Muhammad, and different names, and so I heard about it, but now we're approaching a time where, you know, Spike Lee and Malcolm X and the X hat and whatever, and having an X was kind of cool, you know.
Mm.
And when the minute I didn't like my name that much. I didn't think too much of it, but I didn't really care for it that much. But it wasn't until I heard the minister say it, the way he pronounced Kendall, I was like, man, I loved it when I heard it from him. But he I started getting correspondence in the name of Kendall Muhammad. And I didn't, you know, and somebody, they said, oh, your name is Muhammad now. And I heard it from somebody in DC and whatever. I said, well, I didn't hear the minister say it. You know, if I didn't hear him say it, I'm going to stick with what I know. I have to hear him say, you know. And so the second time, you know, when he came down and did the historic from Jerusalem to Jericho message, that was, you know, one of them groundbreaking things that happened. But he came back a second time after that. And when he came the second time at the airport, when we were driving, he was asking me about sales. And mind you, well, man, it's a lot more than this. But anyway, I'll give the Reader's Digest version. He at the airport, he asked me about ticket sales. He said, you know, brother, if we don't sell this arena out, I'm going to take that Muhammad from you. Now this is the first time I even heard him, you know, acknowledge giving Muhammad to me. He says, yeah, we're going to change it to McGillicuddy or something, you know, whatever.
Yes, sir.
But they made fun. But anyway, after the event that night after at dinner, he said to me, I have a name for you, you know. And I was like, okay, you know, I don't know what you say to that. I said, yes, sir. And I'm waiting for, he says, but he paused for a minute. And then he said, call me, was it tomorrow or the day after tomorrow or something like that, whatever it was, and I'll have it for you. I was like, oh, okay, you know, because I don't know how that works, you know, at all. So anyway, and then I called him, and I didn't get any answer. Let me back up for a minute because it kind of will, I think it'll set. Just before he arrived, he had called me to ask about a ticket count. And I said to him, brother, so we're at such and such so-and-so. He said, brother, that's not the number you gave me on the report you sent. And now I'm at home and it's a Wednesday night. I'll never forget it. And I said, yes, sir. He says, do you have the report in front of you? And I didn't. It was at the office at the mosque. I said, no. He says, you don't have the report. I said, no, sir. He said, brother, I know you told me such and so-and-so. I said, no, sir. But he said, brother, you know what Yaqub made all of his followers, you know?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, my Allah. And he turned that corner on me. And I'm like, and then the phone, I said, brother minister, the phone like went dead, you know? And I panicked. So I was, my wife at the time, Sister Monica, wonderful sister, she looked at me and she knew something was wrong. And I'm panicking. I'm almost in tears. I'm trying to find the lessons. I'm trying to find, I didn't have the answer. And, you know, and I thought, that, you know, and the phone went dead and the minister hung up on me in my mind. And so I'm trying to call back. I don't get no answer. I'm getting answer machine. And I keep trying. Now I got to teach. It's Wednesday night. I got to teach.
Yes, sir.
I rushed to the mosque to get the report. I sent the report that did have the number. I thought it did. I faxed it to the palace.
Yes, sir.
And then I called just before you know, it was time for me to speak. And Sister Celestine, Allah be pleased with her.
Allah be pleased. Yes, sir.
She answered the phone. She said, Brother Kendall, the minister said he found your report, got your report, says the light power went out here. And so everyone went out for dinner. But he said, "Thank you so much." And so I said, "Oh, sister," as I thought that he had hung up on me, and and if he hangs up on me, I'm done. My hope is lost. If he
Yes, sir.
cuts
Yes,
me
sir.
off, and she said, "You got that right, brother. You got that right." And and so anyway, she said, "No, but it's all right. Now I'll let the minister know that you called." So then when he comes in town, we go through that, and then at dinner, he said he had the name for me. And when he got back, I called him, and he he came to the phone. And he said, "Amin, Amin,
Mm,
Amin,
mm,
Assalamu alaikum." Click.
mm, mm,
That was it.
mm. Damn. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. Praise the Lord. Thank you all for watching. Okay, now here's my next question. You get your name. You see, when did you, right? Because I know because you're in the ministry, it had to be some of divinity, something of understanding of the scripture. How did you go from seeing the Most High Min Farrakhan from maybe an activist or a good speaker to someone who was divinely guided?
I don't. I don't. I didn't have those words or that identification of him like that. It was very base. It was very basic for me. Mind you, now I've been raised with scripture. I was seeded with it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I knew that whoever was truly from God, the government would be against them. I knew that. I knew whoever it was, the government of the United States would not love him and would oppose him. Then, of course, I'm learning something of the counterintelligence program and what they did to our leaders and all of that. But I knew that anybody that was standing with God, one of the proofs for me that that person was a divine person was the fact that the government would be so against him. That to me was one of the things for me. I didn't, I can't tell you, oh, Second Corinthians this or First Thessalonians that, and
Yes, sir.
I couldn't pull scripture like I'm blessed to pull it now. It was real basic. It was very primal. What these beasts had done to our people, and what the scripture says of this kind of people, and what happens when the prophets, and mind you, I already knew that, yeah, under every prophet and messenger, they had churches, synagogues, temples, and people that
Yes,
were
sir. Yes, sir.
licensed by the government. So I wasn't impressed. I already knew that seeing flags in the church and all that they couldn't be with God. I knew that. I mean, I just, I didn't have no avenue to speak to that. I just knew, oh no, I know this ain't right. I already knew. So anyway, when I heard the minister, I just knew I was with him, and I knew that I wanted to help him. I didn't have no goal then or now for what I wanted to do for him. I didn't have it. All I wanted was to help him. And then one day, it's a bunch of us talking, and the minister, Brother Amin, asked us, just the little student ministers in the Carolinas. He asked us, "Where's minister in the scripture?" And I said, "Well, he's Jesus, I mean." And he got a few funny looks. Brother Lee knew that as well, because Brother Lee was a Bible man. He was right there, there. But it was real clear. That's Jesus, And so, anyway, I don't know, but it's not something that was, I don't know how to say it. I don't want to dismiss it as not being critical and important. It is. It's absolutely that. But the way I came to it was just very, very organic. Not that I was that smart, not that I was scripturally sound. It wasn't none of that. I didn't know scripture like that. It was just like real basic, you know. And here's the other thing, and I'm sorry for being too lengthy. Mind you, I'm in the devil's military here in the minister. When I went back to the military base, and I mentioned to this brother that I heard the minister, and some of these devils overheard me. I shouldn't say devils. That's not a good language right now, but you know, the slave master's children.
Yes, sir. Yes,
anyway,
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But anyway, once they heard me, now I'm somebody that is very, very appealing to Caucasians. I knew it growing up. I had a real, you know, my language, my manners.
Yes, sir. Yes,
I'm
sir.
the kind of Negro they liked having around. You know what I'm saying? And so after I mentioned hearing the minister, their whole disposition changed. How they saw me, how they treated me. And that to me was another verification that, yeah, this is the right man. You know, this is that man.
Praise be to Allah. Okay, great. My next question is, how did you go from securing the word of God to securing the man of God as far as physically putting your life on the line in the form of doing like executive protection?
In Los Angeles, you know, when we're trying to, you know, I'm trying to be in the ranks then as I knew it. And mind you, I wasn't registered, but I was training. And we knew the minister was a valuable man, and we knew. And then at that time, there were hypocrites and all kinds of people. You know, back in them days, it was before, you know, being a Muslim was cool. You know, before it was popularized in music videos, and you know, everybody's, you know, wearing caps and all that. No, it wasn't that. If you said you was with Farrakhan in those days, you had to be ready to fight, and you had to deal. You had to know the word as best you could. But at a minimum, people wanted to hurt you for just being with him, and they wanted to hurt him. And so now and we were college, you know, we under college, you know, and Malik. And so the minister was coming in town, and so they put, you know, I was put on right below the rostrum, like a front rostrum area, right at the corner, like right there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And we were ready to do whatever we had to do for him because we knew what he was trying to do for us. And so, and I never wanted to be in the ministry per se because I like soldiering. You know, I like soldiering. I love that. You know.
Yes, sir.
But the ministry and the word, you know, I had a little bit of skill I was developing with that. And so, you know, that happened, and you're doing this, and then I'm clashing with Brother Curtis because I'm still got that captain thing going on, and I'm stepping in his shoes and getting in his way and telling him what to do and all that. Then, you know, and then have to sit in front of your father in Chicago, you know, and you know, get ready to fight him and whatever, you know, it's crazy. It was just crazy. But anyway, it was very easy for me because I didn't want nothing. I didn't have no. I don't want to sound silly, but I didn't have a role in mind or position I was striving to get to. I didn't have that. I still don't have it. All I know is I want to help him, you know. And if ain't no assignment for me over there, then I'm gonna cover down here. And then when I was brought to Chicago and, you know, working there, you know, you start moving, and I was at the palace, and you know, you cover down, you do the things you have to do, and ultimately, through a couple of things, I ended up primarily by helping Brother Mustafa. We ended up augmenting the E-team, much as it is now, where you have, you know, we got teams all over, brothers training, and when we all get together, we just fall in. you know, and you get pulled in based on specialties or not or whatever. You do it, others,
Yes,
you know
sir.
what we do. We FOI.
Yes, sir.
So, and then I was blessed to be asked to take a particular role on the team, and I was honored with that, and you know, I'm just trying to be faithful and dutiful to that, you know.
Praise be to the Lord. And thank you once again, Reverend Minister, and thank your family. Cannot stress that enough for their sacrifice as well.
Oh yeah,
My next
please.
question is,
Yeah, thank the family, my wife, brother. You better come up with a question that get around to her. But
yes, sir, it's coming, it's
we're
coming, it's coming.
gonna let it happen organically though. We're gonna
Yes,
let it.
sir. Yes, sir. What was it like to come in and be around Dr. Khaled at that time in LA? What was it like with him, working with him?
I didn't. Context is important because I'm just coming in.
Yes, sir.
I'm being brought in by a brother who comes out of the nationalist community. At that time, their thinking was that the best basic training for somebody that was going to be a Panther or whatever was to go to FOI training. That was their mentality. So a lot of them came in, as I was told early on, but they weren't coming in to stay. They were coming in because of the discipline and the training of the FOI class was like, you know, second to none.
Yes, sir.
And so anyway, this brother is training me along those same lines, and we come in and bring me down, and Khaled has us coming in. I'm watching Khaled. Now Khaled is Khaled, you know, he's doing. We would drill after every meeting, and where he spoke, and there'll be a martial arts demonstration, and brother Bob X, I can't remember his name now, wonderful martial artist. He's in North Carolina now. We've seen each other quite a bit over the years. But anyway, he, you know, Brother Collar would break bricks with his head and all kinds of stuff. And, you know, but this is all recruiting.
Yes, sir.
And Collar was a professor. You know, he's a doctor of what he's the doctor of.
Yes,
and,
sir. Yes, sir.
You know, and he knew what he knew, and he was, you know, he was just Khaled. And I didn't know then a lot of the stuff that was happening was not right. You know, it wasn't what it should be. And again, we all coming in with grave clothes on, and you know, the nation is getting back up, and people are not quite as clean and upright as we need to be. And there was madness going on, and it was rough. It was very, very hard. So anyway, but when he was representing the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and the way he was so precise in how he dealt, I love that. You know, and the thing that I loved his love for our people. You know, when I saw that, the little man, you know, he was just beautiful in that. And you know, and of course, like, none of us are without sin and without fault and such, and you know, and it was difficult. And years later, when we met again, and I asked him about, and maybe I'll tell you about some of this offline, but I asked him about a lot of the things that went on in LA, and he said, yeah, it was a crazy time because the minister had to save him, and the minister shut the mosque down for a minute and put Brother Jabril there to restart things, and you know, they had New York and different things happen. But at the end of the day, you know, we got to know him, and then, you know, tried to do our best. But you know, I'm Farrakhan's man. You know,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm you know, in the context of me even knowing you, you know, like telling him, if it ain't for Farrakhan, I don't even know who you are. You know, so
Yes,
ain't no need to even think anything else. And I measure you by that. And he tried to advise, and I would call your father, and I reported him a few times, and you know, like a lot of us that were trying to do our part and follow our general orders. But he was you know, in his effort and in his work to help the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, you know, he was wonderful. He was absolutely wonderful. And it's important, and the minister is a perfect example of this, Joshua. In our lessons, we're taught to settle on the best part.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know, I mean, because you can't do nothing with the worst part. What you gonna do with it? You know, you know, of course, the original man kept the best part preserved for himself.
Yes, sir.
You know, so he didn't care nothing about the worst part. You know, that's for the enemy.
That's
You
right.
know, and so when you're looking at somebody that, you know, you're blessed to study their history and you can see some of the mistakes they made and such, it's just important to be very careful, you know, and the minister's a good example of that. Even when he talks about Malcolm, you know, the lessons of Malcolm he brings up. You know, he don't give you a lot of other stuff, any other stuff. No, no, no. He settles on the best part of him. You know,
Yes,
the
sir.
best part of the Amen, the best part of hell, the best part of me, the best part of you, the
Yes,
best
sir. Yes,
part
sir.
of, you know what I'm saying? Because that's what God does, you know, and that's what we have to try to do.
Praise be to Allah. And excellent teaching, sir. And thank you all for continuing to watch the People's Podcast. I have a lot of follow-up questions for you, Brother Minister, but I have to make sure I announce our sponsors of this week's episode. Sister Tia Vinos Muhammad, Raising Black Millionaires. These are flashcards that her husband sent me for her. These are flashcards that teach young Black children the value of economic development and economic empowerment, studying all of the CEOs and how they made their money. And these are just great cards. I'm going to give them to my nieces and my nephew. Thank you, Sister Tia Vinos. Also,
Is
my
there a
sister.
link? Is there a link for that going to be in the on the site?
I will put her name and her Facebook information in the comments.
Yes,
My sister Naima has Stay On Point Dance Academy LLC, which is on Instagram, where she teaches young children ballet, young women, children ballet and dance via the internet, because everybody, you know, we're dealing with the corona situation, so she can teach your children online from beginning to end, and it's an amazing thing. Thank you, Sister Naima. Supreme Men's Clothing, St. Louis, 10835 West Florissant Avenue. The phone number is 314-528-5555. Thank you, sir. Brother Ronald, BMW Entertainment in Phoenix, Arizona. They do event planning. If you're in Phoenix, reach out to him. Thank you very much, Brother Ronald. Also, thank you all for these sponsorships. Brother Aaron Muhammad, Akira's Cafe in Chicago, 773-860-1696. He will send you coffee wherever you are in America. Thank you very much. HollyTextured.com, natural hair and products. Our sister in Fort Lauderdale, I appreciate your sponsorship. Supreme Team Insurance, Todd X. McGraw, 803-521-2787. Our brother Saladin Porter, brother David Adams, thank you all always for supporting. Supreme Express, the X Factor in Transportation and Logistics in Houston, Texas. That is brother Chantel X. They're a trucking company that has refrigeration. I appreciate you very much. And freight, that's their specialty. I want to make sure that I highlight that.
Get them all, brother. Get them all,
yes,
brother.
Sir. My sister Miriam's book, ABC I Love Me, and a coloring book. Make sure you all get this. It is on Amazon. My brother Rashad Muhammad, street premiere. He has video production and editing with a 4K camera, with a drone, and he's really working on a lot of things. My second book, which is called Cleopatra, is a children's book. It is on Amazon as well. Thank you all. Last but not least, my father's book, A Soldier in the Movement of Christ. It is on AbdulSharifMuhammad, AbdulSharif.com. Thank you all very much for your sponsorships. If you all have a business and you would like me to sponsor it, please let me know. Cash App the People's Podcast, and I will take care of that. Thank you very much, and I'll promote it on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. Okay, Brother Amin, Brother Minister, I have a question for you. Once we were junior FY in Chicago, and we were, coming up, working with your son Kamari and things of this nature, and you always teach us the importance of discipline and drill. And you talked about your time in South Carolina and the NYSA and things of that nature. What is it about the youth that you always have had a connection with? And what advice would you give to young people growing up in the Nation of Islam as far as maintaining their discipline and making it through?
Oh, wow. Well, I think more than anything else, at the end of the day, I know that I didn't have um, all that I would have liked to have had growing up in terms of guidance and direction. I didn't know the minister. I didn't have him in front of me. There were some, men who were trying to do whatever they were trying to do, but they certainly weren't providing guidance and such. And so the nation, as it was hope for me, and it represented hope for our people. Well, hope is exemplified and expressed to our children, our future. You're hoping for a brighter day. You're hoping for a better tomorrow. And of course, it's our children, and the enemy is going after to dash our hopes and to destroy our future by trying to destroy our youth.
Yes,
And
sir.
so as the minister represents hope for us and represents the way for us or the future and the example of how we get there, and how could I represent him or help him and not, be loving and brotherly and try to be all I could be to represent him to the youth. It just makes sense to me, and I always thought that was just the right thing to do. I didn't know anything else to do but that.
Beautiful. Praise be to Allah. When in your tenure in the Nation of Islam, in your tour of duty from city to city, have you ever faced, especially in the South, teaching the teachings, have you ever faced a time of fear, or where you had to overcome that, maybe a death threat or something where you had to challenge fear? Can you give us an example of how you had to overcome that fear?
Um, well, I mean, I know that there were times when we in the community and when the police came and whatever, but I didn't feel any fear, if you will. And then of course I had been fired, and once the news was that I was the minister's man in Colombia, the devil. This is right after a lot of things happened, and the thing that happened with Aaron's passing in South Carolina State and all of that, and all the things and the minister had been in the city a couple times. I'm on the news. Man, I got fired from the job, and this happened and that happened, and stuff started happening. I never, I don't remember any moment where I was really afraid of them. I do remember when I first got down there, though. Now that I think about it, the first speaking engagement I had, I was invited to speak at an event, and the brother who was sponsoring the event, upon announcing that I was speaking there, he got called to the governor's office in Columbia, South Carolina. And then, and so when he made me aware of that, I contacted the minister, and the minister instructed me to go with him. And so we went into the governor's office and waiting for him. And when he found out, that whole waiting period and having to deal with that, I was nervous then with all of that. But then when the apparently finding out that I was there with brother, he canceled the meeting. But beyond that, I don't know. Too many times, you can deal with stuff in the streets more, with guns and this, that, and the other, and you deal with that. But, I have not been, the little occasional stop on the highway, and you wonder what the devil's going to do, and you get a little trepidation, and, I had that, But then I always knew, and I always was taught to just represent who you are. And once they knew who I was, and I was a Muslim, and I was, and if I was speeding, I say, I don't know how fast I was going, officer, and I'm sorry, whatever. So anyway, they let me go more oftentimes than not. and that was that. Oh,
Okay.
you did mention the NOISA,
Yes, sir.
the NOI Students Association. That's real big. We thought it, we hoped it would be big when we got it started, and that originated. First, it came out of the study group in D.C. that was at Howard, and then using the example of that work on that campus, we decided it was Brother Aaron Muhammad, may Allah be pleased with, and myself, who came to Chicago with a constitution from a fraternity from South Carolina State, and we incorporated that constitution with the Nation of Islam Provisional Constitution to put together something that would allow us to form an organization on campuses so that, the believers and the students could propagate the faith, but more, we were really trying to find a way that we could bring the minister on the college campuses and get access to student funds. And that's when they were trying to clamp down on that. And the idea was to give students that kind of environment and also encourage them to try out their ideas there that they would be able to exercise to help further the future of the nation and to try to protect them a little bit from overzealous laborers who were looking to make good use of,
yes, sir.
of students who are really should be focused on studying and preparing for our future. Yeah, but that NOISA is really big, and I found out years later that you have the Brother Jesse's that come out of that, and you have the many others that came out
Yes,
of
sir.
that were affected by that on campus, and the Honorable Mrs. Farrakhan's name and word coming through those students on the college campuses was real big.
Praise be to Allah. Excellent. What was the spirit like leading up to the Amendment March, and how did that personally impact you?
Man, it was such a. I was brought to Chicago. The minister brought me in November of '94, and I'm working at the National House at that time, and then I'm trying to help Brother Ishmael, who I always had loved, even from afar, and got to meet him, shortly after being in the ministry for a bit. Anyway, working with him and trying to help the minister, we were a part of the organizing committee in Chicago, and on the ground getting things together. It was rough, and the minister, in trying to invite and bring together the diversity of Black thought and Black leadership and minds to this one common goal, and then trying to help us to better receive them, because we wasn't feeling some of these people who would, who seemed real comfortable being critical of the minister, stuff they wouldn't say when in his face, and we find them saying it, and some of them we want to break their jaw,
Yes,
but
sir. Yes, sir.
of course that ain't right. That's not intelligent. That's just, immaturity and how you feel about your man. And but learning how to work in that diversity and for a common goal was a great training ground for us. And it was just beautiful. There were so many people, little people. I mean, that, that I haven't seen it yet covered in any documentary, any footage. The little brothers and sisters who were behind, the Million Man March, those whom Allah inspired and moved, and the things that were done. It was so big, and all the hard work that went into that, and the sacrifice and the sleepless nights, your father and all the staff and that did that, and the council in Chicago, and it was something. And even the day when we got to Chicago, I mean, got to DC, it was just beautiful. I mean, it's one of those things. I have a photo that one of the brothers who was working for the Chicago Sun-Times as a photographer took of me on the stage there as a just kind of a memento, because you kind of, you know, when you're walking with this man, as your father would say, you know, when you're walking with Jesus, you know, you're walking with a man who is in the volume of the books, but you know, there's so many great things. There's so many miracles. There's so many that go on. You can really lose sight of this one or that one. And the Million Man March was so big. I mean, I don't know. I can't remember a time why, you know, I cried so much, you know, and was so happy and to see all of that. It was just beautiful. And the wild part about it is that, you know, the minister had us fasting and for 15 days, and he had us fasting in preparation, get our mind and our heart right. And, you know, I don't know many of us who thought that we would make it on the other side of that. You know, because we were there with him, and you know, he was made aware, and we were made aware of being with him of some of the things that the enemy was planning and other stuff was going on. And we were just there, you know, for whatever, you know, and the crazy part about it for me, and there's a couple others who felt the same way, we were kind of dumbfounded. We didn't know what we were supposed to do. When we got to the next day, we're like, okay, we made it. Like, okay, what we, you know, because when you're willing to die, and then Allah blesses you, and you don't have to, and you get this victory. Then of course the minister went on the tour, and more blessings and more blessings. I don't think that people and the believers should know and remember, you know, it is the minister's experience on the wheel and him hearing the words of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad to him, and those instructions to him, which he followed as he grew to see more and more and understand more and more of that experience, you know, to know that he was present then, you know, and hearing the words of his father. And the government of America had been planning to kill us wholesale. You know, never forget that. They were planning to kill us, man. They still planning, but they had wickedly designed a program that if in fact they slaughtered all of us, no one around the world would have said anything. They would have just said, oh, they killed these animals. They killed these beast people. But the minister in the Stop the Killing tours and all that he was doing in that day on the mall, showing the world who we were and the spirit of Allah being there, our lives and our generations were saved. And that, I mean, and when they do whatever they plan to do, you know, regarding the minister to try and do whatever it is to tarnish his name, don't you forget that. Don't ever forget that.
Yes, sir.
You know? Don't ever forget that. That Allah saved our life and is saving our life through that man. You know, that's big to me, you know.
Absolutely.
So pardon me.
Oh, no, sir. No, sir. Excellent and powerful. And thank you for your transparency, and thank you all for continuing to watch the People's Podcast. My next question for you, Brother Minister, is what has been your greatest trial in your tenure in the nation, and how have you overcome that?
I think my biggest trial and has been trying to be a better father and be a better husband. I didn't do too well, I think, in my choices and even in my efforts to be a husband. I just didn't do that well. I tried to. I wasn't, um, I wasn't no adulterous man, and no, nothing like that. It wasn't no infidelity thing. But I didn't know that I was supposed to care for, you know, my children, my wife like that. You just working, you doing whatever. And
Yes,
my
sir.
daughter, my son, suffered, for that. My oldest daughter, Ilyasa, my heart, she suffered because of that, you know, and because of Allah's grace, Ilyasa's, she's registered in the mosque and good. She's here in Chicago. My son loves me and he loves the minister and all of that. But it's Allah. You know what I'm saying? And the minister and trying to be better. And I hope they see that, but I didn't have no sense. You really, you just doing,
Yes, sir.
oh, really. And it's not, and the easy thing to do as a husband, I guess, is to say, look, I'm gonna do this work, and if you ain't with it, then you should go leave. Well, but you chose her. Hell,
Yes, sir.
you chose her. You got to, so there got to be some work done, but I thank Allah that I was blessed when I got to Chicago, and the minister told me when the first night of dinner here, he said, brother, you can find a wife right here in Chicago. He said the best MGT in the nation are right here in Chicago. I'm like, okay, all right, And then a little while later, when we were sitting in all these meetings, at your dad, your mom, and all that, at the mosque, right across the table from me was my wife, who was just this beautiful, vanguard that, I just knew she was as beautiful from Jersey, Aisha.
Yes, yes,
And here we are, 22, soon to be 23 years later, at the end of the month. Yeah, Allah's great.
Praise be to Allah. And speaking of that, I want to come to that, but I want to make it let everyone know that it was you who told me that someone told you, but you told me to get a life, then get a wife, and I never forgot that. I said, "Oh yes, sir, that was some powerful advice that you've given me." How did you feel pressure to marry? How did you handle the pressure of marrying someone who was so high profile, so close to the man of God? How did you handle that?
Well, what was good for me, brother, is that she was just beautiful, nice, beautiful person, and
Yes,
and I liked her. I mean, you see beautiful black women are just gorgeous. I mean,
yes,
and then
yes,
and your uncle Jamil, he used to have a saying. He used to call some of the sisters the Muslim pinup girls, and he included your mom was one of them, Sister Najima,
yes,
Sister Aisha.
yes,
There was a bunch of the vanguards then that were like, when you looked at them, they was like beautiful. They was soldiers. They loved Allah. They were fashionable. They were fun. And even if you was married, so you wanted your wife to be like that. I want you to be
yes, sir, yes, sir.
yeah. Study her, honey. Study her.
Yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir.
But what and I'm in Chicago now. I'm working at the National House. I'm working with Brother Ishmael. So I'm in the mix.
Yes, sir.
But I didn't think that she was so high profile and so classy. I shouldn't. Is that a good way to say it? But
Yes,
she just was Aisha.
yes, sir.
And I did not think that I qualified, to be honest with you, because I'm coming from ending a relationship that I didn't do too well in. I didn't have no money. All I knew was I wanted to help the minister. And what you raised your finger, yeah, you laughing, but that's just true. That's all I do. And so there was a sister, and I got to shout her out. Now I'm in Chicago for a minute, and people trying to figure out what I'm gonna do about this whole single thing, And this sister, one Sunday morning, we're at Salam, and this was when the meetings were at 2:00.
Mm.
We were having coffee, and I'm sitting and talking, and she sits down. Her name was Reba, Sister Reba Muhammad. She says to me, "Brother Amin, when are you gonna get married?" And I looked at her. I'm like, "Marry who, Reba? Who? Who am I gonna marry?" She was very quick. She says, "Oh well, how about boom?" So she starts running down this list of the sisters, the eligible sisters in Chicago. It's a bunch of them, and I'm like, no, hell no, no, ma'am, no, you crazy? No. Then she gets to Aisha. Well, what about Sister Aisha? And I paused and I said, sister, that mountain's a little bit too high for me to climb. She jumped up and she said, "You brothers make me so goddamn sick." Please, Allah forgive me. Ramadan, I should be cursing, but
yes, sir.
So she walks away, and I'm like, this is Reba, so I'm like, whatever. She comes back and she puts on a piece of paper on the table, and she says, "She told me to tell you she doesn't bite."
Okay.
Word is born. And so anyway, I had to make the call, and we were already talking anyway, and and so this led to that, and I had to ask the minister for her, and then I had to ask the minister for permission to marry her, and Allah blessed me, and yeah, I'm good, man. I'm really good.
Okay, well, see, that's what I was raising my hand for, because I was saying, you saying you ain't have no money and you went at Sister Aisha. That's a real confidence, brother.
No, but let me tell you something. At a certain point in the courtship, I did this thing where I told her, I was really just straight up honest about all of my failings. I don't have this, I don't have that, I messed this up, I messed that up, And she's like, "Well, why are you telling me this?" And I says, "I want you to know, what I am." I says, "So if you don't want it," I says, "I know I'm going to be a great man and I'm going to be successful as long as I stay with the Honorable Min Farrakhan, but I'm not that right now, But if you don't want to deal with me, then and I use the old school term. I said, "You just quit me now,"
Yes.
So like a dog. So, but anyway, she proceeded to share some things and whatever, and she decided to give brother a chance, and I thank Allah for that, And I told a brother who used to say to me, and this is for all the single brothers out here that may be listening. One of the brothers here in Chicago, I asked him, I said, "Brother, when you gonna get married?" He said, "Well, brother, I'm trying to find, I got to get myself together, and I'm trying to get this right and that right." I said, well, if you get all that stuff done, what you need a wife for? She's supposed to be a helpmeet. I said, "Brother, you need help to do these things, So ask Allah, and words, and find you someone that can help you, and you let her know what you got going on and what your plans are, and how you're moving towards those plans, and and deal with it, But you talking about you got to get it all together. You ain't never gonna get it all together, except you got a wife.
Yes,
you ain't
sir.
gonna get it.
Yes, sir.
That's what completes you. And you got to have somebody that loves Allah and loves Allah enough to work with you to help you become the better man that Allah wants us to become. That's the MGT. That's the MGT.
Okay, excellent. And thank you all for watching. My brother Rashad says, tell brother Amin, he appreciates your last conversation at Savior's Day a few years ago. He came to you, you came to him as a brother out of love, not like how most people would, and you handled that situation. Praise be to Allah, Rashad. Brother Kelvin Muhammad says powerful. Brother Carl Murray says thanks. For Victor P. Muhammad says thank you. Brother Carl Murray, excellent teaching, excellent teaching. And a lot of people putting likes and saying help, help, help. Okay. My next question is, what has been your greatest joy in your tenure in the Nation of Islam?
Wow. I got so many. Talking to you. I mean, you know what? I think one of the things for me is kind of recognizing how blessed we are to have each other. You know, and to have the minister who is clearing up the distortion in our vision. You know,
yes, sir. Yes,
the Brother Amin used to describe it like he would talk about the Christ and the crystallized human being that God prepares. And he would talk about how, just like the lens in your glasses, you know, it corrects the distortion in your vision so you can see something clear,
yes,
where
sir.
otherwise it was foggy and obscure, you know. Well, it is the minister and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, their example that if you look through them, if you look with the lens of the teachings and the demonstration of the teachings at what's around you, it corrects the distortion. Then you start appreciating people. You realize, man, Allah prepared this one, that one, these babies, these other ones, and you're blessed to see it. You're blessed to be in that number. Like when we were in Detroit,
yes,
the
sir.
blessings of, I mean, how many, as Brother Supreme would say, how many people, you know, on the earth, you know that Allah, God, is a man who appeared to us in the person of Master Fard Muhammad. How many could say that? Even though
right.
in the church they know they talk about the Son of Man, but they haven't yet come to realize that he has already come and made
Yes,
his
sir.
presence known. But how many
Oh,
are that vanguard that are there with you, ride or die, in all these cities? And you start thinking about the little believer who is coming from the study group, and you know, ain't but a few of them, but they come and they're believing and they're strong and they're at home, you know, dealing with COVID-19 and listening on Wednesday and on Sunday and on
yes,
Friday,
sir. Yes,
and they believers. You know what I'm saying? That's
yes, sir.
to me. That's joy to me. You know, and I have moments where it's more pronounced, where you see everybody together, like Savior's Day, but just that recognition is joy to me. You know, and I thank Allah for allowing me to believe, and that's the big thing. That's the real big thing for me.
What do you do for fun, Brother Minister? Besides
I
learning, I know you're gonna say like learning and studying. Besides that,
no,
like
no,
what
no.
else do you do?
I got some things that are my like in when we were training in the with the church, the Scientology and Dynasty, I have
Yes,
things
sir.
that bring me pleasure moments, and there's
Yes,
things
sir.
that I've always done. My father's a former musician.
One second, brother.
Uh-huh.
1 second, 1 second. I'm just getting a notification. 1 second. This 1 second. No. 1 second, bro, Minister. 1 second. 1 second. Okay, perfect. Just making sure. Make sure that the battery was about to go down. Okay, I'm listening.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So,
Yes,
so I love music. I listen to it. I absorb it. I dabble a little bit. I love music. I always loved comic books when I was younger, so I still dabble with that.
Okay.
You know, so there's things that I find time to I do that I can kind of just relax. I love being at home. I love talking to my wife and just kicking it, and I love that. and I'm a geek, so I'm in IT, and I
Yes,
am.
sir.
I
Yes,
just
sir.
am. I mean, a lot of people never even knew I was into IT, but I am, and
Yes,
so
sir.
um, I do all of that, and that I do that for fun, and the cool thing is I get paid for it, so that's real extra.
Hey.
Yeah, that's real fun. But yeah, and that's it. I love that, and I'm a movie buff, so folks that know me know that's the movies and all of that, So and knowing all the little intricacies of this, that, and the other. Yeah, so that's my thing.
Okay. What advice would you give to future husbands?
Um, I think I said this to you. I was present with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and one of his sons, and he was asking his father how he would know if this person is the right one for him. And I'm not quoting exactly, but Minister Short said, take a piece of paper. On one side of the paper, write down the gifts you have, the things you do well, you
Yes, sir.
know.
Yes, sir.
But on the other side of the paper, write down the things that you don't do that well, that you need help with, and be honest about those things. And she should do the same.
Mm.
And you choose a mate. Of course, there has to be some, very basic attraction, but you want someone whose gifts offset your deficiencies, you know, and your gifts offset her deficiencies, so that the whole is greater than the sum of the individual parts. You're complete. Your help meets. You got each other's back in that, so that you become better by being together.
Mm, mm,
But
mm.
you can't approach that kind of thing except that you're honest and you're disciplined, in your thinking that you want to be better. And that's why being in FY, being at your FY class, being in your deportment in the class, and exercising in the class of the gods, and the same thing on her side. You have to have a goal and a discipline that would help you as you try to become one with someone. And as a husband, as the minister has taught us, you're being given custody over what doesn't belong to you. This is Allah's girl. That's his daughter,
Yes, sir.
you
Yes, sir.
know. And so I was present. I was blessed to be present in the office at the palace when the minister was reading what he had just transcribed to Sister Sophia at the time, the sacredness of the female.
Mm.
I'm the brother in the room, in the opposite in the room, and he stops and he says in words, "What do you think of a man that will go into another man's house and take his daughter, who he raised, who he prepared, who he's taken care of, and then just want to do whatever in words with her without regard to the father and what he had plans for with her? What kind of man is that?" And man, he was giving it energy. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
And
sir.
I'm
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
and I'm in there getting the energy. But it's true, and it's true. And I think that one of the things that we don't recognize, and the minister, really, really, her role in helping us to become the men that God desires us to be, and how she has to, and she has a lot that she has to do, obviously, and that's something for another time. And I'm certainly not the one to go into it. But on our part, man, you got to know that if Allah blesses you with a woman that loves you and wants to help you, man, Allah really loves you. You
Mm.
know, I mean that He would gift you with someone like that. You know, and I already know that that Allah loves me, and proof of it is in allowing me to believe, but also giving me someone that loves me and is patient with me and works with me despite myself. And I'm a lot. I'm not, ain't no joke. I'm a lot. To
Yes, sir.
deal
Yes,
with.
sir. Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. Okay. Um, Sister Tracy Muhammad said this is great. Brother Deshaun says, beautiful brother. His IT brother, Brother Durst, says another great interview. Thank you, Brother Durst. Brother Kelvin, great, great. A lot of people putting hearts, thumbs. Praise be to Allah. Keep teaching, Brother Minister. My next question is, what advice would you give to future fathers?
I was blessed and am blessed with a wonderful my baby girl, my daughter Halima. The baby, she just turned 21. And I was blessed, of course, with my older two, but I was really blessed to have her with us and to be present. And for girls, let me start there. The biggest thing is to be the best man and the best example of the man that you can be. Because remember, you're the example, of the man that she's going to look for in a husband. You're her first love. And she will model, better or worse, the husband and the men she goes after based on the characteristics you demonstrate, that what you exhibit. And I always try to do that, not knowing, because at a certain point, what are you going to do? And that includes how I treat her mother, how I act, how I'm working, how I'm managing difficulties and challenges and failures and successes, all that stuff, and being there. That's real big, and I thank Allah because she and my other children, they have the right heart, and they see and love me despite my failings, but they know that I'm trying to be a good man. I'm trying to be a good man. They know at the end of the day, yeah, my dad is a good man. And that's all I want. When all is said and done, that people will say, that he was a good brother, or that, my dad was a good man, because all the rest of that stuff, don't mean anything after a while anyway. Yeah, you got to have ends, you got to have all that. But if you ain't no damn good, it don't even matter, and you got to be a good person. And for his sons, it's the same way. And with my son, I always point out to him the fact that, the responsibility of being a man, in the context of being raised here in America, in the context of being raised up by an enemy, in a world that hates us, that wants us dead, in the context of being destroyed and having them wanting to make sure you have no future. What kind of man are you going to be in the face of that?
Yes, sir.
Are you going to be strong, or are you going to be weak? And it's not that you won't make mistakes, but make a new mistake. Get up. Are you going to cry for a minute? You cry, wipe your tears, and get up. Because I told him, I vowed that I wasn't going to be, like my uncles and my dad and all of them. Not that they weren't good men trying to be that way, but they weren't blessed to have the teaching. They weren't blessed to have guidance like that would empower them to overcome this world. So I can't be like them. And I'm not going out like that. I'm not going out laying up with no white woman or, craziness, no madness. Come on. You know what I'm saying? That's so stupid.
Yes, sir.
It's been done. We've seen that movie before. It's corny.
Yes, sir.
And so why be that kind of man? Why be the stereotype? you know, and instead of them saying, you know, oh, that nigga, no, that brother, oh man, he's a good man. And that's what I say, that's what you want said about you
Yes,
when you
sir.
lead a room.
Praise
Yes,
be to
sir.
Allah. Okay, excellent. And thank you for your transparency and great advice. And a lot of people were writing, I see you all's comments and I'm coming to them. Brother Minister, I don't want to hold you too long during Ramadan. What um, what is what advice would you give to young people as far as holding on to the faith? Like
Well,
through all these years that you've been here, what advice?
well, you know, one of the things, and you know this, and your siblings know this, and many, it's different growing up in the culture of Islam and then coming to faith in Islam. Because parents can't make you a Muslim. They give
Yes, sir.
birth to you and you got the name and all of that and all the trappings.
Yes, sir.
But, you know, and then we learn how to say stuff, you know, inshallah, and you know, all praise is due to Allah. And we happy for Savior's Day gifts instead of Christmas gifts and all that stuff. But, you know, in your heart, do you believe? And the only thing I would say is that, you know, if you look at the time and you look around you, you know, and you look at where we are, you know, how could you not see that Allah has blessed us and has proven his love for us by raising up two men, you know, that would give us a way to rise up out of this and prepare a future for us and call us to separate. I mean, all you have to do is, you know, put down the blunt for a minute. I mean, put down the alcohol for a minute.
Yes, sir.
You know, don't say assalamu alaikum and choking on stuff. No, be
Yes,
sober
sir.
and think.
Yes, sir.
You know, think for a minute and know that it doesn't matter what you think your sins are. That ain't what this is about. Allah didn't come, you know, to judge us. He came to rescue us, to save us from our sins and the sins of white people, you know. And you're in a wicked world, and until we get out of this world, it's hard to be right. So
Yes,
we
sir.
got to fight to get out of this, you know. And you got to be encouraged because, you know, I don't care what. No, the minister said it best. I heard a brother, older brother, talk about this generation and that, and that's why it is. I said, well, hold on now. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said this is the best generation, you know. Well, stop for a minute, you know. If the Quran says, and we take Allah's coloring, you know, well, that's giving you Allah's coloring. That's giving you Allah's view. This is that now you may have a problem reconciling what he said with what you think initially. And even the youth hearing it, the best generation, and you know your misdeeds, you know your failings, you know your transgressions, you know them, you
Yes,
know.
sir.
But why did he call you the best? You know why? Well, it's something buried deep in you that you're fighting.
Yes,
It's
sir. Yes, sir.
responsibility. It's a future. It's a role you have to play. And I've said this to you myself. And
Yes, sir.
it's a role you have. It's a position that you're supposed to fill in your nation.
Yes, sir. Yes,
You
sir.
know, and we just holding it down until you stand up. That's all we doing. You know,
Yes, sir.
really for real. And the responsibility is to train you and to share what we know. But you're better. You're brighter. You're stronger. You know, and you are the future. And the Honorable Ms. Louis Farrakhan is preparing that, is laying it down for you, you know, and we who are with them are doing the same to ensure that you are here, that you do and you have that which will be, in fact, this kingdom of heaven. I just want to see it. I just want to get
Yes,
past
sir. Yes,
it,
sir.
you know, so yeah.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
A lot of people saying thank you, brother. I mean, you. Gary said, continue to teach hard, and thank Allah for the time you worked with his wife to the class. Brother Kelvin says, thank you, be encouraged. You called excellent. A lot of people, thank you all for all of you all's comments. Brother Minister, what do you want your legacy to be?
I don't know. I mean, I just want to be known as a good brother. I want to help the minister. I don't know what else I'm supposed to do. Um, and I'm not saying that to sound weak or um, handicapped in any way, but I don't have nothing else I want to do. And I hope, you know, that when all is said and done, that Allah will bless my children and bless my family with whatever I may earn. You know, I just want to help him and help us. I'm a tool. I think I'm a tool in his toolbox. You know, and so if you want to help the minister, then I'll help you. You
Mm-hmm.
know, if you don't want to help the minister, you should leave me alone. I don't have no time for you. You know, that's just how I see it. You know, and I just hope that at the end of the day, you know, my grandchildren and my children and their children, whatever, if they mention me and someone, you know, can recall, they will say, yeah, you know, brother Amin was a real good brother. You know, and what else you gonna do? You know, that's all. That's what you want, man. You want that. Yeah.
Praise be to Allah. Well, I thank you very much, my minister, for coming on the People's Podcast. This is a huge honor for myself. Once again, I cannot stress to the people to know how the sacrifice of your family. We thank Allah for them as well, and being able to grow up with your son. It was just an honor to see you in the ministry light. I mean, security, but also as a father, because I saw how the connection you all had, and man, I always admired you and your family. So I thank you.
I thank Allah for you, brother. You know, I'm really honored. I'll tell you, I was very scared going into this because I don't, you know, I don't know, you know, I didn't know what I was going to say, and I didn't know what you were gonna ask because you know,
Yes,
you ain't no lightweight, brother. So I'm like, okay. I hope he remembers I'm his uncle here. You know what I'm
saying? Of course.
Yeah,
yes, sir. Thank you.
And please give my love and my greetings to your mother and your dad. You know, I mean, I love them, and they, you know, really, you know, if they hear me talk about the old Howard End days and back in D.C. and all that time.
Yes, sir.
And we go back, you know, when your father was a business manager and all of that stuff, and all the stuff was going on. It was that stuff right there is the stuff I treasure, and I thank Allah that I'm here and we're here, you know. So thank you for allowing me this time, brother.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you very much, and thank you all for watching. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, sir.